Hi there, and welcome back to Liz and Sandro's Marketing Podcast. We are the podcast that helps companies and marketing departments control their business, control their brand, and get the word out. We are back after 3 or 4 episodes that we recorded back in November of last year. We're finally catching up here.
That's right. Life has been a little crazy, and clearly it's become even crazier with COVID-19.
Yes. But things are settling down and we are happy to be back. Today, Liz is going to discuss WordPress websites, specifically testing and installing WordPress plugins.
That's right. Sandro had a really great idea to share some insight into our favorite plugins. And I said, you know what? Let's take a step back and let's chat through the process of finding the right plugins, testing them, and then actually deploying them on a website. So I figured we'd start there because there is a process to all of this, and I think it's really important, and I want to walk everyone through that. So step backwards again, just to clarify, WordPress is a content management system that leverages plugins. They're like apps. WordPress at its base is truthfully nothing more than a blogging platform. Now they are adding more features to WordPress on its own, but you're likely going to need plugins to expand the functionality of your site. Now that could be a form plugin like Gravity Forms or Contact Form 7.
And those are used to capture your name, address, email, things like that. Or
correct, yes. So a form that appears on a contact page, there are plugins that make that happen. Exactly. It could be a calendar plugin. If you are a business that has upcoming events and you want to show that in a way that provides some type of calendar view, you're going to need to leverage a calendar plugin. And WooCommerce for e-commerce, because WooCommerce is a plugin. WooCommerce has been developed by the same people that develop WordPress. So some of these plugins are free. Some of them cost money. When we're evaluating different plugins, we often start with the free version, or I always see what out there is free. And then later we might decide to upgrade to a paid version if we decide we need more features. I do want to quickly note that if you are using a free version of WordPress.com, you can't install plugins unless you upgrade. But I don't really think this is going to apply to many of our listeners. I'm going to make an assumption that you are a business that's self-hosting, and by self-hosting, meaning you might be hosting with GoDaddy, Flywheel, HostGator, whatever it is, but you're hosting your site somewhere and you want to leverage WordPress with the thousands of plugins that are available. Because by the way, there's, I think the last count was like 50,000 plugins available. Again, some are free, some are paid.
And just a quick correction, sorry, I believe all versions of WordPress.com, except the highest, do not let you.
Yeah, you have to upgrade to the business version of WordPress.com, I think I saw.
They do not make it easy to look at their pricing, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, again, I feel like a lot of anyone pursuing that option is probably a brand new business, or they're a blogger. They may not have any income coming in, but if you are a legitimate business and you want a good web presence, I firmly believe that you need to invest in a website, good hosting, and plugins go along with this. So yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
It is $4, $8, or $25 personal premium business, and only the $25 a month business lets you do plugins, not the $4, not the free, not the $8.
So at that point, you might as well have a website. Yeah, get your website professionally designed, go to a good third-party hosting company because you're going to pay that much anyways.
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
First things first, we want to identify suitable options because not all plugins will work. We vet plugins very carefully because we don't want to cause any issues. You could find a plugin, install it, and lo and behold, you've got a conflict between that plugin and an existing plugin or your website theme, your WordPress theme. And it could be as simple as, maybe your images aren't appearing correctly on the screen, or some formatting is off, or it could be as massive as your e-commerce doesn't work. So You never want to quickly search for a plugin, install it, and hope for the best.
And actually, the worst thing that could happen is your whole website goes down, right?
Yes, in a worst case scenario, you could take your entire website down. And if you're following the proper protocols and you've got a backup copy, that is an easy fix, but you don't want to have downtime. You never know when someone's going to be searching for your services or your products. So we want to maximize uptime, minimize downtime, and test and deploy plugins properly. So yeah, that's what I'm going to start to walk you through today. So in terms of actually looking for a plugin and evaluating a plugin, there are a couple things that we look for. And this is in no particular order. I'm just going to run through my list. First thing we look at is the number of active installations. When you are on WordPress, you can see how many times this plugin has been installed. Now, that probably does not include if the plugin is being actively used, because I'll get to this in a moment. You can install a plugin but not actually activate it. But we do look at the number of active installations. If there's 10, kind of a red flag. If there's thousands, that's a good indication that this plugin is working and doing what it's supposed to do for many sites. So again, look at the number of active installations. Also take a look at the user ratings. Are people happy with how this performs? Are they unhappy? Look at the positives and the negatives and understand what you might be getting into.
Yeah, just taking a quick look at the plugins, the place where you add new plugins. I'm seeing some of these have 5 million plus active installations, 300,000 plus installations, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of installations, or millions of them for the more popular ones.
So I'm sure something like the Yoast SEO plugin has millions.
Yes, let's see. Yeah, they have 5. Everything seems to max out at 5 million plus. That's the most.
Yeah.
Everything seems that. So yeah, you're right. And they all have 4 to 4.5 to 5 stars.
Yeah. So pay attention to those details. The other thing we take a look at are what's known as the compatibility details. So is the plugin, or what version of WordPress is this plugin compatible with? So we are at, I think at the time of this recording, WordPress 5.4, I believe. I wouldn't require that the plugin you're looking at be compatible with the absolute latest version if it just came out. I think WordPress 5.4 came out like within the last week. So again, it doesn't have to be completely current, but if you see that a plugin is compatible up to WordPress 3.5, I would tell you to run. That's probably not one that you want to explore, because there could be, again, potential conflicts between that plugin and the latest version of WordPress. Another thing that we take a look at is support from the plugin developers. And this is another piece that I want to clarify. WordPress is a content management system that it was developed by Matt Mullenweg, and it's now associated with the company Automatic. They maintain WordPress, they update it and push out these updates like we were just talking about. The individuals or other companies that develop these plugins could be anything from a developer in his basement to a company who has developed a whole suite of plugins and offers them for sale. So we want to look at what type of support the plugin developers might be providing. Is there a good track record of support? If you run into issues, are they going to be able to help you? And going back to the compatibility piece of this, again, if this plugin hasn't been updated in 2 years, I might be a little hesitant to move forward with that particular plugin. One of the other things that I have done as I'm exploring potential plugins is I might even reach out to their support and ask some questions, particularly if I have questions, send them a message and see how quickly they get back to me. Does it take an hour? Does it take a week? Do I never hear from them? That could be a good indication, again, of how actively they're supporting a plugin. And, if they're not getting back to you and they're not supporting it, again, that could be a red flag. That's not to say you couldn't install it and move forward with it in the short term, but long term, again, you might need to find a replacement. The other thing we like to do is read through any of the documentation provided from the developer to understand how the plugin works, how the install is going to go, and just any pieces that we're going to need to effectively test and deploy this for a client. If there's great documentation, that's another great sign that this plugin developer has their act together. If there's minimal documentation, that could be a little bit of a red flag as well. Next up, we always want to test on staging first. So a staging site could also be referred to as a development site, or some people refer to it as the sandbox. So this is essentially a direct copy of your live site, but it's in a staging environment, it's hidden, you can break it, do whatever you need to do to make sure you're not messing up anything on your live site. Most good hosting companies will include a staging site in the hosting plan. I just think that's really important. And again, I think the good ones do that. So again, we want to test on staging in case there are any conflicts with your theme or another plugin. We want to learn about all of this in a safe environment before we deploy it on the live site. And like Sandro said, in a worst case scenario, your site could crash and then things just get messy. So we work in a staging environment, and I'm not going to go through step by step exactly how to do this, but I do want to touch on the fact that, again, you need to install the plugin. You need to actually activate it, because you can have a plugin that's installed on your site but isn't active. So you need to install it, activate it, and then configure it. By the way, if you have a bunch of plugins installed on your site, but they're not active, they're not doing anything, you probably want to just remove them. It's just never a good idea to have tons of inactive plugins that you don't need on your site. So yeah, just get rid of them. Focus.
They're free, yeah.
Yeah, focus on keeping the ones you're actually using, keep those up to date. Now, obviously the configuration of any plugin is going to vary drastically depending on what the plugin is. If you're looking for an event calendar plugin and you have a couple events that you need to share on your website, that setup is going to go pretty smoothly. If you are launching an e-commerce website and you're going to leverage WooCommerce, well, there's a lot of setup that goes into that, from setting up your store to setting up shipping methods and actually adding your products. So I can't really speak to too much about how the configuration would go, because again, that'll vary drastically. But once you are confident that everything is functioning properly, then you can deploy the plugin on your live or your production site. Now, yes, this does seem very redundant. It probably seems as if you are creating twice the work for yourself. But again, I want to stress how important this is. What we've just outlined is a best practice for anyone maintaining a WordPress site. It's better to be safe than sorry. And also, depending on your hosting and what the edits are, some of those can be pushed from staging to production pretty easily. So keep that in mind as well.
These are all great tips people don't keep in mind. Sometimes clients will go in and install their own plugins, and suddenly they call you, things are broken, the website's down, my photos aren't appearing, whatever the reason. If you have access to your back end, make sure you follow all of these steps before installing a new plugin. If a friend says, hey, you should check out this new alternative to Yoast, a new plugin, definitely if you have questions, talk to your developer before doing it. Ask them their opinion. They could do the research for you if you don't have time, potentially. But you want to be thorough before you install these plugins. So these are great tips. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, and actually, you brought up a good point. Make sure you are in contact with your web development company and get their insight. They do this all day long. They probably know off the top of their head, oh, you need a new form plugin. Well, we recommend Gravity Forms. Or you need a calendar plugin. We recommend this one. You can save time and headaches by reaching out to the professionals who do this all day, every day. And they might, again, they'll know which ones are great and which ones might suck. So keep that in mind. So those are our best practices. And like I said at the beginning, in future episodes, we plan to get even more granular and speak specifically about different plugins, which ones we like best and why. I've mentioned some, I've rattled some off in this episode, Gravity Forms, WooCommerce. Yeah, we'll be sharing a lot more about this to come. We'll do episodes specifically on some of these plugins. So stay tuned for that.
If there's a plugin you like, a plugin story you have to share that took down your whole website or caused a conflict you did not expect, this only has to happen to you once, where you pop in a new plugin without testing it first. And
then you'll learn a lesson. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. It just happens to you once and you'll never do it again. So if you have a story to share or a plugin you love, definitely send it out to us. Our email address is in the show notes. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And of course, we will give you a shout out and a link back to your website. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.